Welcome to the Sales Podcast, session 73. It's time to take the stairs. Welcome to the 73rd edition of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we've got Mr. Rory Vaden, author of Take the Stairs. I was fortunate enough to meet Rory, 6 months ago or so, and then we hung out a bit at ICON, the Infusionsoft annual conference back in April, and it was great having him on the show. In this interview, you'll hear him talk about having to take a cold shower in college. So I looked up cold shower jokes on the internet, and I must say there are no clean jokes about taking cold showers on the internet. So I busted out my book of useless information. There's some funny, interesting things in here. You know, it may help you win some money on Jeopardy or maybe a free beer at the bar. So I will pull from that for today's humor. Bookkeeper is the only word in the English language with 3 consecutive double letters. So remember that, bookkeeper. That, I promise you, will win you a free ice cream, free beer, something at your next family gathering. And one other, Cleveland spelled backwards is DNA level C. What will you do with that knowledge? I have no idea. But let's move right in to the Sales Podcast Creed, which is, today is my day. I work diligently towards my goals, which are bigger than me. I bite off more than I can chew because only then will I truly know my current limits, and surpassing them becomes my new goal for today. Through education, accountability partners, and bold, decisive action, today will be better than yesterday, and tomorrow will be better yet. I'm ready to produce. So if you are ready to produce more sales, get ready for this great interview with Mr. Rory Vaden. Rory Vaden, consulting guru, fellow Southerner, Take the Stairs author. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, Wes. Thanks for having me, man.
So, I thought that was just a marketing gimmick, but there we were at Icon 14 at the Phoenix Convention Center. Uh-huh. And you're always the best dressed individual in any room. And you've got this big old computer bag. And we had to walk up 897,000 steps. And I get on the escalator, and you got on the stairs. That was pretty cool.
That's how we roll, man. It's Take the Stairs is, it's a book title, but it's our philosophy. It's what we practice. It's our approach to everything. Is the idea that success in anything that you do comes down to doing the things you know you should be doing, even when you don't feel like doing them. Not taking the escalator, not looking for the shortcuts, but taking the stairs. And so the actual physical act of take the stairs is just a physical reminder of more of this internal decision and commitment to say, you know what, I don't care what other people are doing. I am going to live my life by deciding that I'm going to do the things I know I should be doing, even when I don't feel like doing it.
So, all right. So if you're in a high rise and there's a fire, do you take the elevator because it's the antithesis?
I've never had that question before. I get people ask, they say, well, if you walk up the escalator, does that count? I get that question a lot, but leave it to Wes to say, if there's a fire, would you take, I would say no. And here's why. The point of Take the Stairs has nothing to do with being different. It's not about being a rebel. It's not about trying to be noticed. It's not, the core of the philosophy is not about look at what I'm willing to do that nobody else is willing to do. It's simply about doing the things that you know you should be doing, and that's what we really believe. And our real primary business is coaching, Southwestern Consulting, and we've got about 700 active clients right now, and we've coached over 2,700 people, and we got 74 people on the team, and so we really believe it's not necessarily about what we're teaching people, but it's more holding them accountable to doing the things that they know they should be doing. Not that their boss wants them to do, or their parents or their spouse, the things that they know they should be doing. And we believe that people know, and you just gotta get people to do that. And so that's why I take the stairs. So I would say no to your random question, Wes.
That's not random. I am methodical. I am deliberate. Squirrel. Oh, okay. Where were we? All right. Well, hey. So we just jumped right into it. Would you mind? Can we back up a little bit? Tell us who you are, what you do. You mentioned Southwestern Consulting. Can you give everybody a little thumbnail sketch of you and your business?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I grew up around sales. I've been around sales and entrepreneurs and successful people my whole life. My mom sold Mary Kay cosmetics when I was a kid. And I was raised by a single mother, and she would, bring me to the Mary Kay meetings, and they'd be talking about schedule and goals and time management, all this stuff. And I'd be sitting in the back of the room just running around, right? Because it's just single mom. And it basically means that I learned from women all about success. It also means I know more about makeup than I do about fishing, right?
And you do have very good skin, I must admit.
Oh, why, thank you. So I kind of grew up around it. And then when I was in college, I got recruited for this summer job it was just wildest thing. I was an accounting major at the University of Denver, and I am a little known fact about me is I'm an introvert. I mean, I obviously speak for a living, and I speak to big audiences and that, but I'm really an introvert, and I've always been sort of shy. And so at DU, this girl walks up to me. She's reffing my intramural basketball game. Her name's Tracy. And she was like, hey, I have this friend coming tomorrow. Do you have a summer job lined up? And I was like, no. And she said, well, I did this thing last year and I made $10,000. I'd love for you to come hear about it. And I was like, what? You're crazy. So I go to the thing, and I get recruited to sell educational children's reference books 14 hours a day, 6 days a week on straight commission. We would wake up at 5:59 a.m. every day, take ice cold showers, go out, knock on doors Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night for 12 weeks of an entire summer, selling educational kids books door to door. My first summer, I made $17,000, and that was almost as much money as my mom had ever made her entire career. And then I went back for 4 more summers, and I made over $50,000 a summer. So I made almost $250,000 in 5 summers selling and recruiting students to come and sell books for Southwestern Advantage. That was the name of the company. And, that was how I became this accidental door-to-door salesperson, which was, I never thought I would grow up to be a door-to-door salesperson. I was a normal child. I mean, I wanted to sell Mary Kay, right? I mean, that was... But that's how I got my start in sales. And then I was there for 5 years, decided I wanted to pursue my dream of becoming a professional speaker. I left Southwestern, worked in the corporate world.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
You're an introvert studying, did I get this right? Accounting?
Accounting. Mm-hmm.
But you had a goal to be a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
All right, just making sure I heard that right.
I know it's weird. And I mean, that's what I do. I mean, I speak about 70 events a year, even today, and then, and then help run Southwestern Consulting. And so I'm still doing that. But, I was 22 years old, and it was like, who's going to hire a 22-year-old kid to go and speak? And so I thought, well, I heard about this thing called the World Championship of Public Speaking, and I said, well, maybe if I won the World Championship of Public Speaking, maybe that would give me the credibility to go speak. And so I entered this contest, and it's through Toastmasters, and there's 25,000 contestants from 90 countries over 9 months, and they compete. And the first year I made it to the World Championship, the top 10 speakers in the world, and I lost. But the next year I went back, I studied harder, I got more coaching, I spent thousands of hours watching film, I read dozens of books, I spoke 304 times for free over an 18-month window. And I went back and that year in 2007, made it all the way to the World Championship, top 10 speakers, my whole family's there. And that is the year that I lost again, but I lost higher, Wes. I came in second. So as Jerry Seinfeld say, I was the number one loser. But that launched my speaking career. And at that time, the Southwestern Advantage, the parent company of the door-to-door company, approached me about starting a professional sales training and speaking consulting company. And so we started with 4 people in 2006, and now we have 74. And that's what we do. We do one-on-one coaching, and that led me to one day. When I was 18, 19 years old, I said if I could ever get on the Wes Schaefer podcast someday, then I'll know that I'll have made it. And I put it on my vision board, and I thought about it every single night. And here I am, man, and I'm just excited to be here.
Boo, boo, boo. Oh, and you know what? I forgot to turn the record button on, and pow, here comes lightning strike. No one will ever know this happened. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
All right, it did. It happened. Your vision board worked. So all right, you have made it. The skies have parted. The little cherubim and seraphim have come down with their trumpets. All right. Dude, all right, we have so much to talk about now. I had no idea. This is cool.
We're sales.
Let's go back.
Okay.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Rewind. Let's do it Quentin or Tarantino style. Back to the beginning.
Were you upset with Tracy? Because it sounded almost like, when you're at a party and you eat something that just tastes like caca, and you smile and you say, oh, yeah, get a big bite of this. It's really yummy. Because when you were describing this, why did you wake up at 5:59 a.m. 6 days a week? I mean, I would be upset if somebody put that on to me until I started to taste success.
Well, it's funny, it's the Southwestern Advantage story is really an amazing story. They've been around since 1855. So they've been working with college students for almost 160 years, right? And every year they take 3,000 college students, they put them in one of the toughest sales environments imaginable, residential door-to-door, and they train these kids to be completely self-managed, and they're successful, year after year. How do they do it? They created a culture of discipline, right? That was a big part of my exposure. And so what they do is they create this system, right? And they're like, look, if you follow the system and you get up at this time and you say these positive affirmations between houses and you take a cold shower and you do sit-ups and you go out and you knock on your first door by 8 a.m. and you show the books to 30 families every single day and you're positive and you're happy and you're doing your best, and no matter how many books you sell, at the end of the day, you don't care. You get up, you do it again, you show it to 30 families, and they say no matter how many you sell, at the end of a summer, you'll have a successful summer. And so, I bought into the idea of this system, and it worked. And it's like, there's systems for everything, right? There's systems for being a better author, a better speaker, or, I was asking you about your system for podcasting, right? Because you got this great recording, and I'm new to podcasting myself. I've got a show, and there's a system to everything, and it's not hard to find the system. You can find it usually for free or for cheap. The problem is not finding the system. The problem is finding people who have the discipline to execute the system and to follow the system. And so, that's what we kind of said. We started studying these people, and the whole Take the Stairs book is kind of fascinating because, as much as good things have happened, I never really set out to write a book to solve the world's problems. I really set out on a journey to solve my own, because after the World Championship, it may seem weird, but I was devastated. Coming in second, I was devastated. I had dedicated my whole life, I mean, every waking moment thinking about, focusing on, working on accomplishing this goal, and to get that close and lose. I mean, I might as well come in 25,000th place. It was devastating. And, within the next year, I gained 40 pounds. The girl I thought I was going to marry, that ended up falling apart. This speaking business that I was trying to get off the ground was not working. It was losing money. This was we started Southwestern Consulting, and we were generating a lot of revenue, but we had no profits. We were upside down, and and I was in this place going, how did I go from being this disciplined machine that got up at 5:59 a.m. every morning in college and taking cold showers to being this overweight? I had $50,000 in debt. I was like this overweight, lonely, broke, unsuccessful business person. And so as we started working with people and teams, I became fascinated with studying the impacts of this negative habit that I had developed. And what I realized was I had developed this habit of putting off things I knew I should be doing just because I didn't want to do them. In a word, we call that procrastination. And procrastination is what call reluctance. It's what every salesperson, every person, who's trying to get out of debt or get into better shape, it's what they struggle with. And so we started studying procrastination and self-discipline. And basically, we narrowed it down to these 7 key distinctions that the most disciplined, in terms of the way the most disciplined people in the world think, that's different from everyone else. And so the Take the Stairs book is just it's just these 7 distinctions for how the most disciplined people in the world think. And the crazy part is that what we found out is that self-discipline isn't as hard as we think when we know how to think about it the right way. And so, we published the book. The book hits #1 on the Wall Street Journal, #1 on USA Today, #2 on the New York Times. Suddenly it's in 10 foreign languages, and it just takes off because I think the world is realizing that discipline isn't as hard as we think when we know how to think about it the right way. And so here we are.
There you go. And isn't it crazy? I mean, people, I'm sure they come to you, you're speaking, and they'll come to you right after your talk, right? Hey, you got a quick minute? Like you can solve their problems in 5 minutes at the bar. But in reality, you can, but they just don't want to hear it, huh? I mean, it's literally, success is easier than people think if they're willing to work at it for a long time and just do the little things over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, well, I would say success is simpler than people think.
Simpler, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like it's so simple. It's not easy. It's simple, but exactly what you said. It's like you can tell someone what they need to do in 5 minutes, but can they get themselves to do it, or can you get them to do it? That's a whole different story. And the very first principle in the Take the Stairs methodology in the book is called the paradox principle of sacrifice. And reflecting back on my life, I tell the story that I learned of as a kid, because I grew up in Colorado. I live in Nashville now, but I grew up in Colorado. And I remember hearing this story about how in Colorado is a unique place because it has both the Rocky Mountains and it has the Kansas Plains. And so because of that unique topographical landscape, Colorado is one of the only places in the world that has both buffalo and cows. And there's a great lesson about success to be learned from studying the way that these two creatures respond to storms. When a storm comes, storms come from the west and they come over the mountains and they head towards the east. And what cows do is very natural. A cow can sense that a storm is coming towards them. And so a cow will try to run east to try to run away from the storm. It's a real natural reaction. The only thing about that is that anybody who knows anything about cows knows that they're not real fast creatures. They're very slow. The storm catches up with them, obviously, quite quickly. But here's what's wild. Without knowing any better, the cows continue to try to outrun the storm. But instead of outrunning the storm, they actually run with the storm, which maximizes the amount of pain and time and frustration they experience from that storm, which is so stupid. And it's easy to laugh, but here's the thing, Wes. Humans do the same thing all the time. We constantly try to avoid the difficult but inevitable circumstances that result from our very own choices. that our very own choices have created. People who are in debt constantly try to find ways around paying their bills. People who are unhealthy often make rationalizations for why it doesn't matter or why it's not worth trying, right? People who are struggling in a marriage are always avoiding the difficult but meaningful conversations that need to be had to reconcile that relationship. And the key insight that most people have not made, that the ultra performers in the study had made, is right here. They realize problems that are procrastinated on are only amplified. Problems procrastinated on are only amplified. Waiting always makes it worse. Well, here's what buffalo do. Buffalo, on the other hand, very unique for the animal kingdom. Buffalo wait for the storm to cross right over the crest of the peak of the mountaintop. And as the storm rolls over the ridge, moving from west to east, the buffalo will turn, and instead of running east away from the storm, they turn and they run west directly into the storm. They run at the storm, and by running at the storm passes over them, and they run straight through it, which minimizes the amount of pain and time and frustration they experience from that storm. That buffalo mindset is very representative of how a take-the-stairs person thinks. And the paradox principle of sacrifice, which is the first principle of the book, simply stated is easy short-term choices lead to difficult long-term consequences. Meanwhile, difficult short-term choices lead to easy long-term consequences. So I think the thing that people don't understand is that self-discipline is this great paradox. We think of self-discipline as hard and painful, and nobody likes the word. But the whole idea with Take the Stairs is not about making your life as hard as possible. It's about making your life as easy as possible. The difference is that the strategy that we're promoting is we're saying the way that you get the easy life is by doing the hardest parts of things as soon as possible, because procrastination and indulgence are really just these creditors that charge you interest that you pay for later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, next week I am going to get rid of procrastination.
All the procrastination jokes will be funny tomorrow, Wes.
Yeah, and well, I went to school in Colorado too. I went to the Air Force Academy.
You did?
I did. A little Colorado Springs, right down the road. And you know, you can pick on the Air Force all you want, but you know what? We did have air conditioning and remote control in all of our rooms, so even when deployed, so it was all right. But we got a little firearms training, a little shooting here and there, and part of it, what I learned, basically they taught us patrolling, hiking through the woods, right, looking for the bad guys. And I remember to this day, we would do a battle call called Scunion Onion, and it was. It was when if you found yourself in an ambush, we would yell Scunion Onion and attack the ambush, because what they've just learned over the years, you do an ambush because you're going to sneak up on somebody, right? And you're going to get them at their weakest moment when you're at the strongest, and the disarray and the confusion just, it's like shooting ducks in a barrel. But the ambusher never expects the ambushee to take the fight to them. And so kind of like the buffalo, attack the storm, and I always remember it was the summer of '89 that I went through that training. And it always stuck with me. I was never in battle, but as far as business goes, Zig Ziglar kind of says the same thing, right? If you got to eat a frog, ain't no use staring at it. And you might as well eat the biggest one first if you got to eat more than one, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's it. So that's fantastic. And that's just number one. Good grief.
Scunion Onion?
Scunion Onion. That's what our trainer, we had this sergeant that was training us. So as soon as we got attacked, we had to all scream Scunion Onion. The other thing, too, I found through the military, I've got some friends still in Special Forces. One guy cross-commissioned in the SEALs.
Wow.
And what I've learned over the years, they say, is that, you hear about PTSD from combat veterans, and they say, like, the Special Forces guys, there's less cases, dramatically less, PTSD amongst the Special Ops guys that would, like, lay in wait, right, and take the fight to the enemy versus guys that just had to do regular patrols and almost use themselves as bait, right? They were always waiting to be attacked, waiting to draw fire to take it to the enemy. And so I think that's kind of what you're talking about. You know, procrastinating, you're just sitting there waiting, like you know the enemy's out there, and you're just waiting for them to pounce rather than just turn and face the storm, you know, scunion onion.
That is fascinating. I have never heard that. It's the exact same concept, and it's that it's funny because, you know, like there's some funny, you know, like these accessories, motivational posters and stuff. Yep. They have one that says procrastination, you know, sure, hard work feels good later, but procrastination feels so good right now. But it's true that it does. But what happens is it creates that anxiety, this constant angst of it's like the more time, every moment that passes by that we don't take action, the likelihood that we ever will decreases exponentially, and we start to create more and more stress and worry and fear about, can I really do this? Can I really pull this off? And I love it. Scunion, Buffaloes charge a storm. Scunion, onion. It's all the same thing.
There you go. We're done. This podcast is over, baby. This is like 12 years worth of content in 30 minutes. Bam.
I like it. I like it.
So let's talk about, what did you learn from selling door to door? You know, because I like to give some sales tips to people in this when we can, because I think it's still, and always has been, the key to anything. I always say marketing is just selling in print. You know, if you're not a good salesperson, I don't think you can be a good marketer. So what did you learn from 30 times a day smiling and dialing, basically knocking? What did you learn about selling in that?
I mean, wow! I learned so much. So many of the things we already have talked about. You know, it's funny. Tomorrow night, actually, I remember when I was 19 years old, sitting in the audience, and then they have a keynote speaker come out, and his name was More Dudley. More Dudley was an old NSA, National Speaker Association Hall of Famer, and one of the real legends. And getting to see the speaker at the sales school keynote, and now I'm the keynote speaker. And so tomorrow night I will be in front of 1,000 of these students who it's their last night. They're in sales school. They go through this week-long training, and then it's the final send-off speech. And on Friday they drive to their territory, and next Monday, and it's the very question, right? Is I got an hour on stage to say, what is the one thing that these kids need to know to make it, right? To survive. And it's the only time I ever do this speech. Someday this will probably be another book. But the speech is called The Answers Behind the Next Door. And it's a philosophy that Southwestern has had for 150 years. I didn't create the phrase. It's theirs. But we've embraced it. It's like the answer to every problem is behind the next door. Like when it's raining, you go to the next door. When someone yells at you, you go to the next door. If you get arrested, as soon as you get out, you go to the next door. Like if you have a flat tire, if you haven't made a sale in 3 days, if you're lonely, if you're thinking about home, right? Like if you're scared, the answer to every single problem is behind the next door. And I truly believe that for someone to be successful in sales, doesn't matter what it is that they are selling. If that is the one thing they do is they get themselves to say, no matter what, the answer's behind the next door, and they go and they go and they go. It's like you cannot fail. It's not the theory of averages, right? It's the law of averages. It is a law, a mathematical law. Like they're going to buy. Somebody is going to buy. It's eventually sales is a numbers game. Now I'm all about building relationships. Like our big theme is servant selling. That's kind of the methodology we teach is servant selling. I'm all about follow up. I'm all about referrals. I'm not saying don't do any of that stuff, but I'm saying that at the end of the day, the person who talks to the most qualified number of prospects in the shortest amount of time, that's the person that's going to win. Always. And if you keep going, the answer's behind the next door and the next door and the next door. And so from an emotional perspective, that was what I learned. And that has been the same, that persistence in a word is something that I learned and practiced, and that, I applied to my speaking career, and then I applied it as an entrepreneur, and then I applied it as an author. It's a whole nother story of the story about how we, as a first-time author, got a top agent, a New York publisher, and then the best-selling book. I mean, it's a long story, and it's a long story because the short of it is the message is it's persistence and the answers behind the next door. So I think, to me, that's the biggest thing. And like, if it was my daughter who was going out to sell books, and it's like, if I had one sentence to tell her, what does she need to know? It would be answers behind the next door.
I remember, I think it was Ron LeGrand, I heard that his version of that is basically the 4 SWs. Some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting.
Yeah.
So I guess you would still recommend people in college, regardless of their career aspirations, look into this, what is it, Southwestern Academy?
Advantage. It's called
Advantage.
Southwestern Advantage is the name of the summer program for college students. And then, so they sell during the summer, and then it's a leadership program during the year. They learn how to recruit and train, and they build a team, and then they take that team with them to the field the next summer. So it's a sales and leadership program. And so Southwestern Advantage, yeah, they're still going strong. And it's, to just say it directly, it's one of the hardest things that a young person can choose to do with their life. It's like you got boot camp, and you got door-to-door selling, and but like boot camp, and like people who go through these incredible trials, it reveals your perseverance. It reveals your character. It's like, no matter if you're going to be an accountant or a doctor or a lawyer or a salesperson or an author or an entertainer, nobody that has made it has done it without persistence. It just hasn't happened, and that is the most important skill I think a young person can learn. And it's like, learn it while you're young, because it's a whole heck of a lot more painful to learn it later.
Amen. Just like losing weight.
Yeah, it's like, if you can keep it off, it's a lot easier to keep it off than have to get it off.
Yeah, a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. So why did Tracy make 17 grand and you made 50 grand? Or no, she made 10 and you made 50.
Well, she made 10 her first summer, and I made 17. But I wasn't the top student. The top student their first summer will make like $30,000 every summer in their first summer. But the top student overall will usually make more like $75,000 to $100,000 in a summer. So I was in the top, like I was in the top 15 or 20 or something, but I was not the top student. My business partner, Dustin, one of my business partners that we started Southwestern Consulting, he's one of the other co-founders. He is the all-time record holder for the most made in a summer, and he made over $100,000 in one summer. And so, why? What is the explanation? There's lots of potential theories, right? But one thing that Southwestern says, that the more that I've been in sales, the more I've been around salespeople, I've found to be true, is they say advanced sales is nothing more than advanced attitude plus advanced work ethic. So advanced sales is advanced attitude plus advanced work ethic. And I think that's the difference. So people who don't sell as much, they either didn't work as hard or they didn't have as good of an attitude. Now, Tracy is a rock star, and she made more money every summer because she was, she had recruited me and recruited other people, and so you get paid off of your recruits, right?
Right.
And she was a top producer, and she was the epitome of advanced attitude. She was awesome. I mean, she was a great leader, But then you've got, so the number one reason that people don't do well is because they give up. They quit, or they don't quit. Well, it's like they either quit and go home, or they quit and they stay. Like they're still there, just like I'm sure that some of you listening know people in your office or on your team or whatever, where it's like they're still physically there, but they quit a long time ago.
Yeah. In the military, we call it road. They are retired on active duty.
Road. I love it.
$100,000 in 3 months. I mean, can you be like 65 years old still slinging books? I mean, why do anything else? I'd go work for 3 months and then go kick back.
I mean, there are some people that do that at times in their life. A lot of the top producers will, like let's say they're in between jobs or they're about to go on a honeymoon or something for 6 months. They'll go sell books for a summer, because once you learn how to do it, it's like it never leaves you. So there's a couple adults, if you will, but it's hard work. I mean, being out there and door to door is not, people aren't. Imagine what happens when people come to your door, and then just imagine that happening to you 60 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is.
Whew. So are you still in the NSA?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I am.
Yes.
I am joining right now, so I will see you in next month at the big convention.
That's great. Oh, man. Yeah, you got to be – anybody who wants to be a speaker, it's like the National Speakers Association teaches you the business of speaking, and Toastmasters, I always say, teaches you the art of speaking. NSA can teach you both, but the thing that Toastmasters does is it gives you stage time. Like, you actually stand up and you speak. You don't do that at NSA. And I think the best way to be a great speaker is to speak a lot. But NSA teaches you the business of speaking, how to make money, how to do branding and marketing, and the contacts that you make at NSA are just amazing. I mean, it's like I met Zig Ziglar at NSA. He sat down next to me, and at lunch randomly we become friends, and he mentored me for 5 years right up until he passed away. It's like Brian Tracy is walking around at NSA. It's like, I mean, these people are just there. So I'm still part of NSA, and Southwestern Consulting is still a part of Southwestern. So Southwestern Advantage is the book deal, the book summer program is one of 13 companies in our entire corporate family. And so Southwestern Consulting is a professional sales coaching company. Then we have an executive search company, and we had an insurance company. We just sold it. We have a Great American, which is the largest school fundraising company in the world. We have Southwestern Investments, which is the #1 Raymond James financial planning office. And so we have these 13 companies. Wild Tree is a home-based party planning company, and they've got like 15,000 distributors. And all of those companies are owned by the corporate umbrella. And so our company is owned by them, and it's privately held. So it's all the executives of all the companies and all the top salespeople who own them. So I'm very much still part of Southwestern, still part of NSA, and a part of Toastmasters.
Wow. So what are some speaking tips our listeners can take away from this? Something small or something big? Maybe they're not a member of NSA. Obviously, joining a Toastmasters is easy. Anybody can do that. There's chapters everywhere, right?
Everywhere, yeah.
But if somebody wanted to break into speaking, and I would recommend it to anybody, any business, I don't care, insurance, pest control. I mean, is there any business that can't benefit from the owner speaking more?
No, I don't think there's not a business. I mean, yeah, it's speaking is such a great tool for building any business. If you're asking about the key for breaking into a business, I think here's probably the most important thing, and this applies to speakers and authors, and it's the hardest thing to do. It's a very simple thing, but it's very hard. And that is, anytime you sit down to write a speech or an article, or you sit down to write a book, or to create a new keynote, you have to, in one sentence, at the very top of the page, you have to boil your entire book or your entire speech down to one sentence that is exactly what do you want the audience to think, feel, or do when they are done. That's what we call your message. The most common cause of mediocrity among authors and speakers is they say a lot of stuff, but it's not when people are done reading the book or done hearing the speech, they go, oh, that was cool, or it was good, or it was funny, or whatever. But when a week later, they can't remember anything. It's like people can only remember one thing from every article or every book. Like that's the most you can hope for them to remember. And so I write every book. I have my new book is coming out in January, and it's a book. It's about the emotional side of productivity. So it's a time management book. It's called Procrastinate on Purpose. And so we just went through this process. But when you write that book, or when I wrote Take the Stairs, there's one sentence at the top of the page, and the one sentence for Take the Stairs is, do things you should be doing even when you don't feel like doing them. That's it. That's the whole message. Like when I am delivering the Take the Stairs speech, or when you buy and read the Take the Stairs book, when you are done, what I want you to do is I want you to start doing the things you should be doing that you don't feel like doing them. That's it. It's the whole book. And every time I write a blog article or anything like that, it's boiling it down to that one sentence. And I think that's why most there's a huge crowd of mediocrity. I don't mean mediocrity in a really like a negative way. Like, speakers are amazing people. They're all trying to help people. They're all pursuing their dreams. They all really believe in serving people. And I love speakers, but there's just a lot of noise, I guess would be a better word. And in order to rise above that noise, people got to know in one sentence, what is it that you are trying to get them to do? So that's the big idea.
Well, that's fantastic. But, you're right. We call them the mediocre majority. And, hey, by definition, 50% of anyone in any industry is below average.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it just is. You have to embrace that and realize, I love your message. You started at the beginning. It's just, there are simple things. It just takes discipline. You've got to stick with it. I mean, do you think having a coach or a mentor or somebody like that, an accountability partner, is crucial? Can people reach their goals without having somebody help pull or push them along the way?
I think it's possible to reach your goals. Well, no, I don't think it is. It's impossible to reach your goals without the help of other people, and it would be stupid to try. I don't think I think having a coach is a phenomenal idea, and having many coaches. And you have coaches that you don't pay, like these are friends, right? And then having coaches that you do pay. Randy Gage is he's a wild guy. He's awesome. He talks about prosperity and abundance and that, and he's built a huge speaking business all over the world, and it's like fills arenas with thousands of people. And he has this one phrase. He said, "You should always be the number one investor in your own dream." And I think people are reluctant to pay money to learn the skills they need to learn. And it's like, pay for a coach, buy some webinars, buy some courses, like find someone you trust and buy their stuff. And that's, as much as I get paid for a keynote now, I have at least spent as much money on marketing coaching and branding coaching and writing coaching and publishing coaching and speaking coaching and humor coaching and storytelling coaching, as anybody out there. And so yeah, I think that's a great idea, Wes, is, get a coach, get a mentor. And statistically, people are 2 times as likely to follow through on a resolution if they have an accountability partner. And that's why. I mean, obviously, we are in the business of sales coaching. We don't really do speech coaching. We do sales and leadership coaching. But statistically, you're going to follow through. It's like if you want to lose weight, it's like get a fitness trainer. You're not paying the fitness trainer the $150 for their advice. You're paying them because if when you don't feel like going to the gym, you're not going to just not go because you're not going to waste that $150. So you're going to drag your butt to the gym. That's the real value of it. It's actually a principle in Take the Stairs. It's the second principle. It's called the buy-in principle of commitment. It says the more we have invested into something, the less likely we are to let it fail. So be the number one investor in your own dream, and you got to be willing to do that.
Yeah, I love what you just said there. And I was having this conversation actually in the Infusionsoft partner community where I've run across a couple people discounting the heck out of the application. Actually, I didn't even know it was legal to sell it at that price. You know, and I said, look, you're just hurting yourself. You know, you're discounting things. And, I mean, there have been real studies. I mean, they've wired people's brains, given them 2 glasses of wine, told them one was, you know, this $200 bottle and one was a $5 bottle. And the pleasure receptors in their brain on the $200 bottle, you know, light up. But it was the same glass of wine.
Wow, that's awesome.
You know, but because it cost more, they enjoyed it more. And, you know, and obviously there's the law of diminishing returns at some point. I mean, you can't charge too much. But, you know, I tell people when I bought Infusionsoft in 2006, I was a one-man show still in corporate America trying to launch the Sales Whisperer. And Infusionsoft was $5,000 down and $299 a month. Mm-hmm. You know, it was like the Model T. You can have any color you want as long as it's black. Mm-hmm. And biting off that kind of chunk, I saw the vision. I knew the automation was the key. I knew I couldn't afford to hire people to help me grow. I had to do it myself at that point in time. And when I plunked down that kind of money, they had my attention. You know? So
we did the same thing with Infusionsoft. I mean, we did the same thing. Because when we started, we had 25 users, and so it was like, when you pay that much money, you have no choice but to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And so it's like it becomes a priority. If you're not paying that much money, it doesn't become a priority. So it's like that's a great analogy. And the time and you've gotten every piece of that back. I mean, you're the number one Infusionsoft reseller. I mean, it's come back to you in so many ways, and it's like that's what happens when you make that investment.
Yep, that's it. Well, Roy, I appreciate you being so open and giving so much good words of advice here. How do you recommend, what's the best way for people to find you or your businesses, or, you know, what's the one thing you want people to do after this podcast?
RoryVadenblog.com. Just go to RoryVadenblog.com. We got all sorts of free stuff there. They can tie into everything we're doing, you know, podcasts, social media, subscribing to get an email update from me every time I post a blog. And I post a blog a couple times a week. They're real short, but, you know, RoryVadenblog.com is the place to go. And, you know, the last little thing I would just leave everybody with is people, you know, we always get to the end of something like this and people say, okay, Rory, so let's say I start doing all this stuff you're talking about, right? Like, let's say I start overcoming procrastination, and I'm being more focused, and I'm being disciplined, and I'm taking the stairs, and I'm doing the things I know I should be doing that I don't want to do. And then they say, how long do I have to do all that for? And it cracks me up because the answer is not the one that we want to hear. It's just the one that we need to hear. And the answer is you never get to stop being disciplined. You never do. Now, that doesn't mean life is going to be one great big giant trip to the gym, right? Or that it's not like you're only going to eat foliage. But the reason we never get to stop being disciplined is because of something that we at Southwestern refer to as the rent axiom. And it's a key part right up front in Take the Stairs. We talk about this. The rent axiom says that success is never owned. Success is only rented. And the rent is due every day. Success is never owned. It's rented. And the rent is due every day. And when you embrace that philosophy as truth, you'll stop wasting time looking for shortcuts. You realize that financial security is never owned. It's rented, and the rent is due every day. Being in great physical health is never owned. It's rented, and the rent is due every day. A happy marriage is never owned. It's rented, and the rent is due every day. And you embrace that, and you start focusing on, just like what you said earlier, Wes, it's not about the huge, grandiose decisions. It's about the small, seemingly insignificant ones. And you start to take pride in doing those things every day, and they get easier and easier and easier, and your life gets easier, easier, and easier. So take the stairs, man.
Amen. Well, thank you, sir. Everybody visit RoryVadenblog.com and buy his book, or we will come after you. Isn't that right? All right, man. I will see you in 1 month in San Diego.
Yes, I look forward to it. Thanks for having me on the show.
Woo-woo. Thank you, man. See you, Roy.
Bye.
Do what you need to do, even when you don't feel like doing it. Success really is that simple. As Rory said, hold yourself accountable. He grew up around sales, but he jumped into a program when he was in college that had a very clear-cut process, very specific things that you had to do. Right, wake up at 5:59, take a cold shower, get your exercise, and be knocking on a door by 8 a.m. So if your sales are struggling, if your business is struggling, if your life is struggling, if things aren't what you want it to be, don't look for some great big answer, big pie in the sky. Look for something small. It really is the little things that make the biggest difference. They say small hinges swing big doors. So what little things are you skimping on? And maybe it is that you don't take any action after you listen to a podcast. Maybe you need to take the action and visit thesaleswhisperer.com/love and put a little shout out on social media about this. It sounds simple. It sounds self-serving, but the interesting thing is when you do this for others, you're more likely to ask others to do that for you. And then when you see how I do it, you'll then peel the onion back, see how you can apply it to your own business. But figure out what little things it is that you're skimping out on and start doing those. And let me know what type of difference that makes in a week, in a month, in a year. And I promise you it will make a big difference. Maybe it's things like maybe you buy books and don't read them. You don't finish them. Go buy Rory's book, Take the Stairs. This is thesaleswhisperer.com/73. You'll see links to Rory's book there. Those are my Amazon affiliate links, so I get $1 or $2. Go do that. All right, and then see how I use the affiliate program to grow my business. So, all these little things, they all add up. Thanks for listening. Be sure to listen again. There's always a lot of things that you just miss. It's just human nature. An idea hits in your head. Maybe you kind of drift off a little bit thinking about that. So go back and listen to it multiple times. The cool thing with listening to podcasts, especially on iTunes, is you can listen to them in double speed. I listen to everything in double speed on my audiobooks. I listen to them in triple speed. And you really can process that much information. It's an interesting experiment. So try that. To help you get the most out of your listening and your self-improvement, make the most use of your time. All right. So as always, thank you for listening. If you visit 30daysalesgrowth.com, enter promo code podcast, you'll save $30. It's a great way to sharpen your skills in selling. And feel free to give a little shout outs on the comment section of the blog. Please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. And as always, remember to sell different.